In the bustling streets of Galilee, a man of great importance, Jairus, a ruler of the synagogue, pushed through the crowd. His face was a mask of desperation, his eyes searching frantically. He had heard of a man, a teacher from Nazareth, who performed miracles. This was his only hope. He finally saw him, Jesus, surrounded by people hanging on his every word. With no regard for his own status, Jairus fell at Jesus' feet, his voice trembling as he pleaded, "My little daughter is dying. Please, come and put your hands on her, so that she will be healed and live." Imagine the weight of that moment. The leader of the local synagogue, a man of power and respect, humbling himself before this traveling teacher. His love for his daughter overshadowed all pride. Jesus, seeing the man's profound faith and anguish, simply nodded and began to follow him. The crowd, sensing a momentous event, pressed in, following them through the narrow streets. The air was thick with anticipation. Every step felt like an eternity for Jairus. His heart pounded with a mix of hope and terror. Would they make it in time? Suddenly, Jesus stopped. He turned to the crowd, a question on his lips, "Who touched me?" His disciples were bewildered. "You see the people crowding against you," they said, "and yet you can ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus looked around, his gaze piercing, knowing that power had gone out from him. A woman, trembling and afraid, came forward. She had been suffering for 12 long years, spending all she had on doctors, but only getting worse. Hearing about Jesus, she had thought, "If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed," and in that instant, she was. She fell at his feet and told him her whole story. Jesus looked at her with immense compassion. "Daughter," he said gently, "your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." For Jairus, this delay must have been excruciating. Every second that passed felt like a lifetime stolen from his daughter. He must have been wringing his hands, his anxiety building with each passing moment. He respected the woman's healing, but his own daughter was on the brink of death. Just then, his worst fears were realized. Messengers from his house arrived, their faces grim. They approached Jairus, their words a crushing blow. "Your daughter is dead." Why bother the teacher anymore? The world stopped. The hope that had burned so brightly in Jairus' heart was extinguished in an instant. The sounds of the crowd faded into a dull roar. Despair washed over him, cold and absolute. His little girl was gone, all this for nothing. But before the full weight of the news could crush him, Jesus, overhearing what they said, turned to Jairus. He looked directly into the grieving father's eyes, his voice steady and calm, a beacon in the storm of sorrow. "Don't be afraid," he said, cutting through the noise and the grief. "Just believe." Can you imagine the power of those words? In the face of death itself, Jesus spoke of belief. It was a preposterous, impossible command. Yet, there was something in his voice, in his unwavering gaze, that ignited a tiny, flickering spark of hope in Jairus' shattered heart. He chose to trust. Jesus then dismissed the crowd, allowing only Peter, James, and John, along with the girl's parents, to continue with him. They walked the final steps to Jairus' house in a heavy, sacred silence. When they arrived, the scene was one of chaos and mourning. The house was filled with the sounds of professional mourners, wailing and crying loudly, a customary ritual of grief. The air was thick with sorrow, but Jesus walked into this scene of despair and asked a startling question: "Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep." The mourners, who had just seen the lifeless child, scoffed and laughed at him. They knew death when they saw it. How could this man be so naive? Their laughter was filled with scorn and disbelief. Ignoring their ridicule, Jesus put them all outside. He cleared the room of all doubt and disbelief, creating a space for a miracle. He took the child's father and mother and the 3 disciples who were with him, and they went into the room where the child was lying. The small room was silent now. The only sound was the stifled breaths of the parents, their hearts caught between hope and utter devastation. Their 12-year-old daughter lay on her bed, still and pale, her vibrant life seemingly gone forever. Jesus walked over to the bed. He didn't perform a loud, dramatic ritual. He didn't call down fire from heaven. Instead, in a moment of profound tenderness and authority, he took her by the hand. He looked at her and spoke to simple words in Aramaic, "Talitha kum." The words were soft, yet they echoed with the power of creation itself. The command was simple: "Little girl, I say to you, get up." And then, the impossible happened. Instantly, the girl's eyes fluttered open, color returned to her cheeks. She sat up, looked around, and then she stood on her own 2 feet and began to walk. She was not just alive, she was completely restored, whole and well. Her parents were utterly astonished, overcome with a joy so profound it left them speechless. Their tears of grief turned into tears of unbelievable happiness. They rushed to embrace their daughter, holding her tight, unable to believe what their eyes were seeing. Jesus, seeing their joyful shock, gave them a simple, practical instruction: give her something to eat. It was a reminder that this was not a ghost or a vision, but their living, breathing daughter, returned to them from the clutches of death. He then gave them strict orders not to tell anyone what had happened, though the news of such a miracle could hardly be contained. In a single day, Jesus had shown his power not just over sickness, but over the finality of death itself, bringing light into the darkest of places and proving that with faith, even the impossible is not beyond reach. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more.